defeat Donald Trump, which is what the left is doing. First, they started with the Russian collusion. Failed. That's A. B. Claim that he's unstable. Failed. C. And here's the horrible thing, but I will adjust it. He posited that possible an assassination attempt. When I interviewed Scott Lively, one of the things that he had mentioned is a Saul Alinsky tactic of freezing your opponent. This shutdown is an Alinsky tactic. Freeze your opponent. The economy's doing great, the tax bill went through, everything's rushing forward, everyone's loving Trump, everything's going fine. Oh, let's freeze him in place with the shutdown. Let's freeze what he's doing. Let's stop what he's doing by any means possible. That's another Alinsky tactic. By any means possible, no matter what it takes. So there are three things. The Russian collusion failed, claimed he's unstable failed. We have yet to see how this third principle of freezing him.
It's interesting to mention because you just had the assailant who attacked Senator Rand Paul pleading guilty to the felony assault. And we also had the assassination attempt on Steve Scalise. So those are all things to consider. And I want to get to another question here. And this is a question it's a little uncomfortable in terms of the phraseology, but there's no way of asking the question without putting it this way. Now, the shithole comment.
Love it.
Mike,
Love it.
do you think that this was a plan to produce the anger and frustration on the left to make them react? Because one of the things that I know on my site, I've used that phrase over the last week a lot more than I've used it probably my entire life. And there's been a lot of ironies out of it. For example, I don't know if any of you know this, and if you read my site at thetechguyblog.com, you may know this, that Canada has actually sent members of parliament to Little Haiti in Florida to tell them, don't come to Canada looking for asylum for Trump because we might deport you. So basically they're saying, how dare Donald Trump call Haiti a shithole, and if you're Haitian and you try and come here, we're going to send you there. So what about this comment? Is it hurting him? Is it helping him? And is it true?
I do not, well, first of all, I don't care if it's true or not. Second of all, I do not believe it's hurting him. Third of all, and this is an absolutely true story, I was watching TV when this all broke about that particular comment, and my reaction was this. I laughed out loud, and then I said, that sounds like something my dad would say. And here's the thing. If it wasn't true, then why are so many people from such countries trying to come to the United States? I mean, frankly. It's no shot at the people of Haiti. Our heart breaks for the people of Haiti. Our heart breaks for people of any country that is so ravaged by poverty and corruption. But the last thing I'll say is, the media has made lots of hay out of this. If you watch CNN,
they did 5 days of it.
Oh, they said the word over and over and over and over again on CNN. I think somebody counted. Joe Concha of the Hill was on Tucker Carlson one night this week. Over 100 times, CNN in 24 hours said the word. But what they never talk about is the fact that the Clinton Foundation went to Haiti after the 2010 earthquake and basically, looted the place and then left with all the cash. So I think that's worse in my mind.
Well, in fairness to the Clintons, it proves that they are equal opportunity crooks. They will rob from the rich and the poor, which makes them
the asshole comment goes to something that Chris said early in this discussion, which is that Trump uses very regular guy language. He's a construction guy. He's in the construction business. Do you remember during the election, before Election Day, there was an interview with Donald Trump Jr. where he said, my father would go to the job site and he would actually walk around the job site because he wanted to talk to all the guys on the job site. That's the kind of man he is.
Okay, Chip, let's go to you.
Yeah. The comment he made about those countries, The one thing people have been aware of for years, before he even made this comment, is that Haiti, El Salvador, the 3 or 4 countries he mentioned, they are among the most corrupt countries in the world. They're Haiti, when they had their latest disaster,
That'd be the earthquake in 2008.
yeah, and they've had others before that. We have poured billions between government, state money, individual contributions into these countries, and enough to, someone once used an analogy, enough to build a $50,000 house for every family in Haiti, and it's disappeared. A lot of this has disappeared. In fact, there was a scandal 2 or 3 years ago where some of the charitable organizations, Red Cross, Salvation Army, and so on, had ships in the harbor ready to bring in relief supplies, and they were stopped and stymied because officials were demanding bribes before they would let those supplies move off the boats. And stories like this get out. So when he uses that word to describe these countries, most people say, yeah, that could maybe be a little tough characterization, but it's still, they're among some of the most backward countries in the world, despite the billions that have been poured into them. And by the way, I've got on the online a couple of days ago, I got somebody sent me a hat looking like this, and on it said, "Make America a shithole. Vote Democrat."
That's cold. That's cold.
That was.
All right, Dianna, your comment on that, and one of the things, I think Ben Shapiro said it, and Ben Shapiro was not a big fan of President Trump, but it was his statement that that the president's style of speaking was baked into what people would choose. People knew who President Trump was. He was already defined. The media couldn't define him. So all of this stuff, from the Stormy Daniels thing to the shithole comment, none of it's going to hurt him because it's already baked in. Is that the case, in your opinion? And is this the president trying to provoke the left into trying to deny, this is not a shithole country and we cannot dare send people back to it?
No, this is President Trump with his Bill Belichick style, right? For those who don't know Bill Belichick, he's the coach of the Patriots, the winning New England Patriots.
You'd have to be a hermit not to know Bill Belichick.
In Massachusetts, you'd have to be.
Some people might not know. Some people might not know who the coach is.
But anyway,
Okay?
you were saying.
Anyway, so President Trump is steps ahead of people. So more people, I guarantee you, have Googled Haiti, right? And what they might find out about Haiti, it's not that these countries, they're corrupt. They're corrupt. So think about this. Haitian refugees come here. We feed, house, clothe them. They send money back to Haiti. We give them aid money. So we're sending money back. They're sending money back. Our tax dollars are going back. And then their corrupt governments are using our money that's causing more of their people to come back to us. It's insanity. What people don't know is that Haiti is sitting on the largest gold reserves in the Western Hemisphere, and also oil reserves. And what they also don't know is that the money, remember when Bill Clinton said, if just send $1, send $2, right? People were sending cash, right? $13.5 billion missing, right? The UN has been there for a very long time. They brought cholera, raping women. When the construction happened, where they said, a factory was built down in Haiti, it wasn't where the damage was. It was where the mines are going to be. Right. Okay, so these are people, the Clintons and other people, who are so corrupt, along with the politicians in Haiti, right? And so other countries have the same thing. Other countries have resources. So President Trump, with his comment, whether or not he said it, he's probably sitting back going, oh my God, I can't believe how easy this was, right? Because I'm sure down the line, 6 months, right, we're going to be hearing stuff about this. Hearing stuff about stuff we never would have known. So I think he's brilliant.
Okay, before we get to Christopher, if someone could grab a Diet Coke and bring one to me, I would be very happy. Christopher, before you hit one of the famous Mai Tais here, by the way, Tang Dynasty is known for the best Mai Tais in town, and let me give them, and I want to ask everyone to give a hand for the folks of Tang Dynasty before we do anything else, who have produced not only as hosted us for this event, but the food here is great. If you are not at this event, if you live in Massachusetts, you need to come to the next event we have. for the food alone. The food alone is worth the visit, in my opinion, here.
Do they deliver?
Actually, I don't think they do, which is a shame. So you got to come here. But plus, although we are delivering you via YouTube, who've been the live stream. Chris, your comment on the shithole comment, and I want to add something to the question to you because you would be familiar with this. Because there was another question here that I thought was interesting. Scott Adams of Dilbert seems to have predicted everything about Trump. He's not necessarily a Trump fan, but he seems to have predicted everything. So I'd like you to talk about the shithole comment, and I want you to talk about Scott Adams, because I thought that it's been amazing to see what we've seen from him.
Yeah, Scott Adams was absolutely fantastic in his, I think it was only like 10
For those of you who don't know, he's the cartoonist who draws Dilbert.
Dilbert. Yeah, and talk about somebody who's very sardonic, and in his political cartoons has a real finger on the pulse politically. And so his comments, I thought, were absolutely fantastic and very apropos, considering the situation we're talking about here. The shithole comment, well, I'm sorry, folks. Look at some of these countries. Just look at them. And now, while we can talk about many of them rising, good, God bless them. That's what you're supposed to do. Adopt capitalism, adopt freedom. This is what you're supposed to do. But you can just look up any photo on YouTube and Google and Bing of any of these countries. And it's not just the physical appearance of these countries. It's the government, their environmental policy, their human rights policies, their jurisprudence policies, all of it. All of it comes into play here. Brings me back to what I said a few minutes ago about how the press grabs that 5 seconds. And what was Donald Trump saying about, well, Donald Trump being Donald Trump? It's like, well, why do we do this? Why report these shithole? Why can't we do something people like Norway? Instantly, boom! The press is like, oh, he's racist. He just wants white Aryans. No, that's just you and me just giving a for instance, i.e. for instance. That's what it is. He didn't mean I want nothing but white Aryans. No, he's like, why can't we just have people coming from normal countries who actually want to do something, who actually want to be Americans, who actually want to grow and build and do. Instead, we have all these people coming from these more refugees, another 500,000. All right, put them in Detroit. Oh, look, another 300,000. We'll send them here. Even the Puerto Rican thing, hang on, sir. Even the Puerto Rican thing, would that happen in there? Yes, it's an American property. I understand that. But now in Worcester, we have to hire like 300 more teachers. Why? Not just because we have this influx of Puerto Rican students coming from the hurricane. None of them speak English. How does this happen? How are you an American protectorate and you don't speak English? This is what they're not reporting in the press. They're saying, well, we're going to hire more teachers and, well, to handle this influx. And there is only one person who came out and said that, and that was Turtle Boy. That's who said it.
By the way, Turtle Boy is a blog out of Worcester.
Right, Turtle
just
Boy.
to let you know about that.
So anyway, hang on. So getting on to this whole thing about, okay, so if you want to get out of the United States because Trump is here, I'm moving to Canada. Well, I'm sorry, Canada has immigration policies too. In fact, you know what the crazy thing is about Canada? Canada is actually far more stricter on their immigration policies than we are.
So is Mexico.
Or have been, right?
So is Mexico.
So is Mexico. Exactly. So all these actors and actresses who said they were going to move to Canada, it's like, do you know why they haven't? Because when they looked into it, they were like, oh, wait, we have to jump through all these hoops? Oh, never mind, screw that. We'll just stay here and we'll just complain about Donald Trump and the United States. And this, as I've said on my show and in my blog, and I know it's not a real word, but listen to what I'm saying, this is the oxymoronism of liberalism. This is how upside down, bass-ackwards their entire policy and mindset is.
All right. I do want to mention something because it's worth mentioning, although none of the people who I had expected to come from my work made it. I work with a lot of people. The first language at my work for most of the people who work there is Spanish. Then there's Portuguese, then there's Arabic. There's a couple of people there are refugees, but all of them are hard-working types. And what I found interesting is most of the people there don't like Trump, but they seem to act like people who like Trump. It's as if they're getting it's as if they're being fed an alternative thing. You're getting hardworking people who are putting in these extra hours, who are saving up and who are doing these things, who are getting the advantage, but they're getting, because they're not speaking, many of them aren't speaking English, it's as if they're getting their media from another spot. And I want to touch on that because we talked about the countries, but there's also places like D.C. where the murder rate is very high in D.C. and in Baltimore, in Chicago, and of course there's the murder of Seth Rich, which we're still not hearing much about. Mike, is all this stuff going to bite the Democrats? Are these problems in the inner cities where remember President Trump said to the black community, what have you got to lose? And now his popularity among black men and Hispanic men has doubled from what it was. Now granted, it wasn't that high to begin with, but is this a change? Is this the problems in the inner cities and the success of the economy, is that making a change with black men and Hispanic men who are now finding jobs and getting ahead?
The answer is yes, but I think that there's still more that could be done. I think that Trump and the Republican Party would be very wise to be much more proactive on this. I forget who it was. It might have been Laura Ingraham. In fact, I think it was Laura Ingraham on the Fox News channel who said that Trump and the Republican Party should take their act to the inner city and speak directly to those people. In the same way that Trump said to black voters, what do you have to lose? Somebody needs to say that to the Republican Party and the Trump administration. You have nothing to lose by going to inner cities and engaging more than you already are. And I think that that's something that they really need to do. But when you ask, are they in a bubble, it's hard to predict, but how it's going to work out electorally. But is the left in a bubble? Absolutely. They have learned nothing from the 2016 election. There's a reason for that. The reason why they have not learned anything, the left, from the 2016 election is because they still don't believe there's anything wrong with them. They still think they were just robbed of the election. So why should they change? And that might actually end up working well for us, because if they don't change their game plan by 2020 and they go into it still 4 years later without having learned a thing, that could work out very well for us.
Okay, now Chip, I want to add this to the question because this was a question and I think it fits with you perfectly. President Obama said we didn't build our own businesses. Elizabeth Warren talked about, you didn't build that. How would Trump deal with that kind of a question? And from what I was saying earlier about how things have developed in the black community in terms of its popularity among black men, Hispanic men, the popularity going there, is this something that's going to make a difference? Is that what is going to be the difference in 2020 or maybe even in 2018?
I'll tell you what the difference is. The difference is what I'm holding in my left hand. Last week, I run a monthly meeting of conservative activists called the Friday Morning Group. And as my guest speaker, I had a woman named Margaret Maider come up from D.C., and she works for Americans for Tax Reform, which is the Grover Norquist group. And she brought this for everybody. What these 20 pages are, there's 7 or 8 items on each page, and each item is a company that has either increased employment, has given out bonuses, has had charitable donations, and it runs the gamut from Baltimore utilities, the inner city, to the Iowa farmlands. Now, interestingly enough, the date on this compilation, and it started pouring in after the tax reform package passed to ATR headquarters, is January 8th. Now that's almost 2 weeks ago, and there were 140 listed then. And Margaret, in her speech last week, said we had to stop at some point and compile this because they just kept pouring in. So my guess is 2 weeks later, this 140 or so companies in 20 pages, it's probably 400 or 500 and maybe 30 or 40 or 50 pages. And like I say, it goes across the country and with a variety of benefits. And that's not going to stop soon. And you're going to get all these companies that have these billions and trillions overseas that are now bringing it back into the country because of the cut in the capital gains tax. So I think that's very promising at this point.
Okay, Diane, I want to pass the microphone to you, and I also want to add on a piece from another question because, Steve Bannon. Now, full disclosure, I've interviewed Steve Bannon several times. I've known him for a while. We get along well. We had the Wolf book about the president where Steve is quoted. I don't know if he's quoted in context or not. The Bannon wing of the party, which is a very strong conservative, there was the defeat in Alabama, there's the book. Is that wing going to be there for Trump, or is there going to be a division because of it, or is the economy going to make the difference, or is the left's, and this is something we brought up earlier, the left's continuing attack on the president going to be enough to rally conservatives?
I think the Steve Bannon thing was an act in the play because people connect Steve Bannon with President Trump, and then they say that's proof that President Trump is a white supremacist. So I felt like my feeling was that Steve Bannon and Trump had to sever in order to have better 2018 election results.
By the way, just to say for the record, Steve Bannon's no white supremacist. I know.
No,
that.
he isn't. But yes, I don't believe. I like Steve Bannon. I think he's a true American patriot. I support him, and I just feel like that it was a charade. And I just feel like strategically that this is just my opinion, that this had to happen so that they could be separate from one another. But I just want to make a comment about liberalism, right? So I don't ever say that, okay? And I know all of you have been in politics way longer than I have been, but I think of it in money and power, right? So the if you want to call them the liberal, the liberal Democrats, the Pelosi, the Schumer, that's not their ideology, right? Their ideology is green, it's money, it's power. And so what they push down to their base, right, is propaganda, right? So it's crazy when you look at minorities. I hate that word too, but they fall for this, and yet their communities are not doing any better, right, under Democratic leadership. So it just like when we say it's liberalism, I say instead of saying that, follow the money. I feel like if we were putting more out there's so much out on the internet that's so easy to access. If you go in to see who donates to these people and where their stocks are, it's so easy, and we would change it. When we say liberalism, we think that we're fighting an ideology. We're not.
It's sort of like when we talk about the pipelines. One thing that was forgotten was that one of the great benefactors were the railroads, who were transporting oil much more expensively. And who were they constantly quoting about the railroads? Big Democratic donors. So
right. And so that's what it is. And so the reason I think words are important is that then we stop investigating. We say, oh, well, that's their mindset. We can't, right? But if we could prove, if we, constantly put out the connections, even for, I'm no fan of Charlie Baker. And if people follow me on social media, I go after him every opportunity I can get because the guy is very progressive, right? But his progressiveness is based on the money and power, right? And so I get every opportunity I get to show a connection between him and one of his donors and what he's doing, I do it. And that's how people can see really what's happening.
Now, not that I'm a big fan of Baker myself, but in his defense, let me point out that he has turned up to support Republicans such as Dean Tran, who was elected here.
Big deal.
But you can't change the state until you win.
First of all, he goes against President Trump at every opportunity, right? And I try to get in. And listen, as somebody from the outside, it's so corrupt. I'm sorry, they're corrupt. They don't support everybody. They support the people that they think are on their side. So I'm sorry,
that's all right.
Charlie Baker. I mean, the thing is, here's the other thing, and then I'll give Chip over here.
Chip is to your right.
I know. I'm just. right? Here's what people say, well, it's better than having a Democrat. What? I mean, what kind of response is that? I mean, the thing is, my personal belief is the whole Mass GOP needs to implode, right? And we need to stop looking at this as like, oh my God, if we have a Democrat. No, we have to start from scratch. And we have to stop thinking just one little election down the line. We have to start thinking about our future, our children, our grandchildren. That's what we have to start thinking about collectively as a state and say, you know what, we're gonna take the hit. We're gonna take the hit, we're gonna lose a battle. But we have in our mind the end goal of winning the war. Because otherwise, we're gonna be doing this crap for the rest of our lives. Yeah. And it doesn't make, and listen, I'm saying this as somebody who I've not been in politics. So I'm new from the outside and I'm looking at it and saying, really? So because they're not a Democrat, excuse me, in Massachusetts, 20,000 Democrats jumped over to register as Republicans for President Trump, and he got probably 500,000 Democratic votes in Massachusetts. Okay, so, you know, what does that have to do with anything? So we have to stop falling for the propaganda from the people who say they're in our party, but they're the same thing. It's money and power. They don't care. I'm off my soapbox.
Okay, and Chris, I want to again go back to the Seth Rich thing, which I mentioned briefly, because I figured you might have a little more knowledge on this. Is that going to make a difference? Are these things, the dossier, the Seth Rich stuff, are all these things going to blow up, or are they going to be kept down? Is it going to make a difference?
Well, yes, I think this is going to be the year that we're already seeing it in the news. It's already starting to happen. It is going to completely blow up in the face of the Democrats. I think eventually, I'll posit a hedged bet here. Possibly, maybe, by the end of the year, possibly, maybe, you see the beginnings of a Hillary Clinton indictment. Possibly, notice the words I'm using, possibly, edging, kind of, by the end of the year, maybe seeing an indictment on that, because this is what's happened with the dossier. Everything that has come out on this, and like I said earlier about the Roger Stone thing, this is what's happened. The more Mueller looks into this, guess what's happening? They're digging a deeper hole, but what are we finding at the bottom of that hole? Oh, it's the DNC. Oh, Trump colluded who are these guys over here? Well, we're going after Donald Trump. Oh, wait a minute, what happened over here? Oh, we're gonna go definitely. Oh, this next person coming to the Senate, they're gonna expose Donald Trump. Wait a minute, what's this going on over here? This is what's constantly happening. The more they dig, the more they're finding out the exact opposite of what they're looking for. This is why people say, hang on, I know you're chomping at the bit, I love it. This is why people are saying, well, why doesn't Donald Trump fire Mueller? Because this is what Donald Trump does. He's doing this over here. Meanwhile, he's doing this over here. That's how Donald Trump operates. I want to get back to what you said about the Democrats, gun control, the inner cities. More Democrat suicide. Facts are stubborn things. Thank you, John Adams. Facts are stubborn things. Chicago, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia,
Detroit.
Thank you. And I pick your city. Pick your Democrat-controlled city. There it is. There it is. It's been going on for a number of years, but the reason why we've talked about it, but it hasn't been exposed, is because we haven't had a Donald Trump in the White House. And we haven't had more and more people cluing in to what actually is going on. As far as the Steve Bannon and the Wolf book is concerned, again, getting back to what I said about the Walter Cronkite thing, this is just more of press just making shit up. They're just making it up. It's gotten so bad out there. It's gotten so bad that this is all they have left. And the rest of us are actually seeing it. Democrats are actually seeing it. They're actually, it's like, this is not the wagon I wanted to hitch myself to.
All right, I want to now I want to ask a specific question to each of you individually, because each of you have a specific focus that you're known for. And I'm going to start with you, Mike. You write about education. Higher education. And Betsy DeVos, in a speech, talked about how Common Core is dead. As far as this administration is concerned, which should endear her and Donald Trump to a lot of Tea Party people. But we've also seen, because of the Harvey Weinstein stuff and all of these revelations that I would maintain would not have come out if Hillary was elected, that the focus on due process in college is coming out. What should we expect to see in terms of higher education over the next year of the Trump presidency, and what would you like to see? This is specifically for you. I'll even give you the microphone because I'm such a sweetheart.
Thank you. So if this goes back to something actually that Chip brought up at the very beginning of this discussion, which is the whole Title IX thing. The term that the left uses for this specific topic is rape culture. And the idea is that American colleges, this is according to the left, American colleges and universities are incredibly dangerous places where none of you should send your daughters because an alarmingly high percentage of them will be raped at college.
Now I want to touch that. Why would you spend $60,000 to send your daughters to be victimized if this was true?
Well, I think a lot of parents don't know that this culture has taken root on a lot of college campuses.
According to the left.
And this is nationwide. So what has happened is that over the last several years, with this idea of rape culture, due process has gone away, or at least it went away under the Obama administration. Now, this is one of the reasons why Betsy DeVos, as the education secretary, actually gets met with protesters when she visits college campuses. Does anyone even remember the name of Obama's education director? Of course not. But the reason why Betsy DeVos has become a magnet is because she and the Trump administration are going to undo some of these things. And when I say undo some of these things, what I mean is they're bringing back due process of law. Lots of colleges and universities actually have kangaroo courts on campus, where they deal with sexual assaults on campus without ever involving a single law enforcement official. This is insane. So
and they're getting sued and losing over and over again.
This is changing due to the Trump administration. It's one of the reasons why Betsy DeVos has been such a lightning rod.
And FIRE has been, and Chris was mentioning FIRE, which has been very involved in this.
FIRE is an excellent organization, but their focus is on free speech.
Okay, that's FIRE is, by the way, the Foundation for Individual Rights
in Education. A fantastic organization. But at any rate, in answer to the second half of your question, which was what do I think